You are listening to the Exam Room Podcast brought to you by the Physicians Committee. I am, of course, the weight loss champion, Chuck Carroll. Today, all about gut bacteria, perhaps not the most glamorous of topics, but among the most searched on PCRM.org. That's why we wanted to do this podcast today. And to help us continue that discussion, I am welcoming the Associate Director of Diabetes Nutrition Education for the Physicians Committee, Megan Jardine. Megan, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Chuck. I'm glad to be here.
The pleasure is all mine. Trust me. Now, you and I have been talking a little bit off air about gut bacteria. You've done a wealth of research, which we're just going to present now. So I guess the first question that we should ask is kind of the lay question, and that is, what type of diet causes bad gut bacteria?
Well, it's what you would think. Any kind of fatty foods, fried foods, fatty meats, cheeses. There was a study done at Harvard, and it was very interesting. And they tested a diet, two diets. One was an animal-based diet, and one was a plant-based diet. And so the researchers allowed the participants to eat as much food as they wanted. So they first did this animal-based diet, and they were allowed to eat as much as they wanted. Steak, cheese, butter. It's sort of like what you'd think of as a low-carbohydrate diet. And they did this for 5 days. And they actually lost some weight because people do lose weight on a low-carbohydrate diet. But when they tested their microbiota, their gut microbiota, and they do this with a stool sample, they found that all of these bacteria started growing. In just 5 days, it happened so quickly. Allostypes, Bilophila, Bacteroides. These are all associated with inflammation. They're associated with different types of cancer, liver cancer, colon cancer. And then when they switched them back to the plant-based diet, they were allowed to eat as much as they want of beans, fruits, vegetables, whole grains. Their bacteria started to recover. And I think that really tells a lot about what happens when we eat food. We're not only feeding ourselves, we're feeding the bacteria in our gut.
Yeah, that's so funny. Like everything really can just gets transferred back to the gut. Like it all begins there. I think the warning here would be trying to identify which are the worst of the worst. What are the worst offenders? In your opinion, let's just cap it at 5. What are the 5 worst foods that we could possibly eat as far as creating bad gut bacteria?
Well, I think anything that's high in fat, butter, lard, red meat, processed meat, fried foods. And I'm going to tell you why, because this is very important. There's 5 things that happen. And when you eat fats or foods that are high in fat, your liver has to secrete bile. And bile is important because it breaks down the fat so you can absorb it and use that fat for energy. Okay? But bile does some things in the body. First of all, it's toxic to healthy bacteria. So your healthy bacteria numbers diminish. The second thing is it causes this growth of what we call bile-tolerant bacteria. And these are the ones I was talking about, Allostypes, Bilophila, Bacteroides. And these start to break down the bile, and secondary bile acids are formed. So these secondary bile acids are in the colon, in the large intestines, and these are associated with colon cancer and also inflammation. So it's all about inflammation. The next thing that happens is the bile tends to irritate the lining of the gut. So your intestine keeps the bacteria in the intestines. You don't want that bacteria crossing the intestinal border and getting into the blood. And so what happens is that when you eat a high-fat diet, the bacteria is able to cross the border, or little pieces of the bacteria maybe. And what happens is your immune system goes, oh, wait a minute. It forms a reaction, and that's inflammation. And also could be associated with some of these autoimmune diseases that we see. And then there's one more thing that happens. Carnitine in animal products like eggs, cheese, chicken, red meat, is broken down in the bacteria, goes to the liver, and once it gets into the blood, it forms this metabolite. It's called trimethylamine N oxide. We'll just call it TMAO.
Yeah, say that 5 times fast, huh?
So TMAO is associated with coronary artery plaques. So it causes the plaques to build up on your arteries, and this is what causes cardiovascular disease. So fatty foods are out. It reduces healthy species. It causes the bile-tolerant bacteria to grow that cause inflammation, causes these secondary bile acids to form. It breaks down the gut barrier, and then it forms that TMAO. So those are the things that we need to think of, is how the bacteria reduces our health or causes chronic disease through our bacteria in a high-fat diet.
So, Megan, we've been talking about the bad, but let's talk about the good now. Give some tips as far as how people can promote good gut bacteria and optimal health. So, again, the lay question then, if not what type of diet causes a bad gut bacteria, what then type of diet is really good, beneficial for promoting good gut bacteria?
Well, it's all about fiber. When we look at the Power Plate, the Physicians Committee has this Power Plate: whole grains, vegetables, fruits, legumes. You should eat at least 3 servings of whole grains every day, at least 1 or 2 servings of legumes every day, at least 3 to 5 vegetables every day, and at least 2 to 4 fruits every day. And if you do that, you will be getting at least 25 to 38 grams of fiber. And of course, at the Physicians Committee, we want you to get more than 40, so you can probably even do that, especially with the beans.
Sure.
And this fiber feeds our healthy bacteria. It proliferates the species of Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium. These are the species that release these, they're called short-chain fatty acids. And short-chain fatty acids get into your blood, they're absorbed, they help you feel full. They also reduce that inflammation. They also enhance your metabolism. There's these little fat burners in our muscle cells called mitochondria. So when you eat more fiber, it makes you have more mitochondria, and it makes your body burn more fat, or increases your metabolism. So those are just some of the things they do. So fiber is really important, and of course eating from the Power Plate is important.
So then, give me the top. We just mentioned the 4 things that are on the plate there, but if you could pick 5 foods, if you could only eat 5 foods to promote good gut bacteria growth, what would those 5 foods be?
Well, I think it should be something simple, something you can find anywhere. Broccoli. Broccoli is the ultimate health food. Most kids like broccoli. It's not expensive, and broccoli is packed with phytochemicals that reduce inflammation and reduce the risk of cancer, and it will also help feed those healthy bacteria. So broccoli. And then bananas. The ultimate fast food is a banana. And if you're thinking about your bacteria in your gut, you want to eat green bananas, or all bananas are good, even if you have that kind of brown banana. But if you want to really have the prebiotic effect, which means it makes those healthy species grow, you'd want to get a little more on the green side.
So that dissipates the riper the banana gets? The benefits do?
Yeah, it has to do with the starch in the banana. The inulin starts to, or the resistant starch. Green banana is going to have more resistant starch, and resistant starch has more of a fermentation that occurs in the colon with the bacteria.
I think, a lot of people, we'll get back, I think you have three foods left, but I think a lot of people then would hear that and say, well, I like a little bit more ripe banana. I assume you would get the same benefits if you were to use that greener banana while making a smoothie, correct?
Oh yeah, yes, yes, and don't throw out your bananas. Eat all bananas, even when they're a little bit brown. I like to, peel them and put them in a Ziploc bag and throw them in the freezer. And then when I always have bananas on hand to make a smoothie.
Yes, good tip. So what else is on the list?
So beans are so high in fiber, and they're high in this resistant starch, and they're going to cause this release of those short chain fatty acids. So beans are high in minerals and protein and fiber. And so when you eat beans, it's definitely improving your gut bacteria and the lining of your gut, so that it helps to feed the cells that line the walls of the intestine. So it prevents any kind of toxin or bacteria to enter the host or enter into your blood. So the fourth food I would say are blueberries. Blueberries are a good prebiotic food, any berry really, but your blueberries are full of antioxidants and phytochemicals. And we know that people who eat more blueberries have better brain health. And so I would recommend people try to get blueberries. And this time of year, it's harder to get them, so get frozen blueberries.
Exactly.
And you can do the same thing.
I have a few bags in my freezer right now.
Right. The last food is not as easy of a food to consume. It's probably tempeh, because tempeh actually has probiotic in the food itself. So if you're eating tempeh, you're getting some, tempeh is a fermented soy product. So through that fermentation process, it contains some healthy bacteria. So that way you're not only getting your prebiotics, you're getting your probiotics too. Now your prebiotics are the foods that feed the bacteria, and your probiotics are foods that actually contain the healthy bacteria.
Do you get the same type of benefit from all fermented foods?
Well, I wouldn't, not all fermented foods have been tested, and there are some concerns about certain foods like kimchi. We do know that kimchi is a prebiotic or a probiotic, but it's also very high in salt. And we know that, for example, in Korea, people who eat a lot of kimchi, and there's higher rates of stomach cancer there. So you have to be careful about some of these probiotic foods that are high in salt. Another one is kombucha. There have been some cases of people getting metabolic acidosis from consuming kombucha. And of course, that's a probiotic drink. And a lot of people, drink a lot of kombucha. So I'd be careful about drinking too much of that.
All right. Well, you were just a wealth of information, Megan. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was great to be here today.
Well, we're definitely going to have you back on. I can tell you that. Megan Jardine, she is the Associate Director of Diabetes Nutrition Education for the Physicians Committee. And you are listening to the Exam Room Podcast, brought to you by the Physicians Committee.